Hey, good morning, you guys. Welcome back to the channel, Drawing with Michael. This morning, today is Tuesday. I had a very long weekend. I had huge presentations for clients and also a lot of wrap-up stuff. So I didn't really have a chance to sit down and do a piece. I did, however, wrap up a piece. You can check it out on my Instagram. Just click the little icon in my banner there, and you can go to the Instagram and see what I did. I also posted a video, I believe on Friday, for a piece I did on the iPad Pro 12.9 using Procreate. I've been doing a lot of fish lately, just as a series, because I'm trying to get my fingers in a client that works a lot with nautic and fish and stuff like that. So posting that on my social media definitely will hopefully get their attention. But anyway, today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a switch up. Switch up being a review. So you guys know that I love my tablets. I love my Surface Pro. I love my iPad Pro. And I'm getting more and more used to working on the iPad Pro 12.9, and it's becoming a really great resource as a professional tool. I'd done a review a few weeks back in reference to using the iPad Pro as a professional tool, and I said, yes, you could, but it is more of a companion device. And I still stand by that statement just because of the way that files are transferred and how, you know, it's challenging to introduce fonts and textures, and I'm used to using my quick keys with my left hand in my Pro apps. So pretty much the only application that you can use, actually there's two that you can use on the iPad Pro, is going to be Clip Studio Paint, which is a fantastic program, and I use it all the time, and also Procreate, which is a very powerful tool for quick sketching and illustration. That being said, I know that a lot of illustrators and artists out there really don't have the funds to ante up for, you know, a $1,400 iPad Pro, or even, you know, one of the other devices like a Surface Pro 6, I think that they're on now. The Surface Pro 6 all in is around $1,800, not including the keyboard or the pen. So whenever you start looking at those numbers, you start looking at the viability of it as being a really solid working device. This morning, as noted in previous videos and on my Instagram, I purchased a Surface Book. Why did I purchase the Surface Book? Well, I just wanted to do a review. No, the reality is the Surface Book has a lot of great features, as well as it's larger than the Surface Pro. And at the end of the day, it's got a better battery life. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to turn the camera around for you guys and let you kind of look at the device. Now, there's a ton of reviews on YouTube for the Surface Book, but the challenge is whenever I started looking at them, a lot of them were blogs and vlogs and places that would have the device for maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks, and they were reviewing it, and then it would be sent on. And I think there's one review I found of an artist or illustrator that kind of looked at it and saying, is it still a viable device for illustration? So I'm just going to kind of turn the camera around, let you guys look at the device really quick.
Right, and here it is, the wonderful 13.9-inch Surface Book. This is the first generation of the Surface Book. This is the 128 gigabyte configuration. It has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I believe the i5 processor. I believe it's approximately 2.4 gigahertz maximum speed. It also has the Pro Pen technology with over 4,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. Now, you guys are seeing this particular device in the UAG case. It has, I'll review the case here in 2 seconds. So as far as peripherals go, it's got an SD card slot right there. Then it has a USB 3, I believe, slot. And it also has an additional USB slot. Right now, currently, I have a dongle in it for the XP Pen remote. And it's got a beautiful metallic aluminum finish. I'm actually not sure what material this is. I've heard it's magnesium. I'm sure it's some proprietary metal that Microsoft has developed. Everybody talks about the hinge, so I'm not going to go into the hinge. The hinge is a wonderful piece of engineering, and currently it's wrapped up in the case. But the screen for this particular device is absolutely beautiful. I don't know how many nits that it's displaying, but as far as pixel density, it's 3000 by 200, which is actually higher pixel density than my iPad Pro, the most current iteration, the 12.9. If you look at both of these devices next to each other, which I'm going to do in here in just a moment, you're going to see that the Surface Book 13.9, in terms of luminosity and pixel density and beautiful screen real estate, is just as nice as the iPad Pro. The keyboard and the mouse, of course, are proprietary to, not mouse, but the touch pad here, which I don't really care for or use. I don't really use the keyboard at all, and I'm going to tell you why. So using the Surface Pro 3 for as long as I have without a keyboard, I have basically developed a work system that kind of circumvents the entire keyboard quick key. A while back, I purchased this device right here, which is the XP Pen Pro Remote, which has it's got quick keys that you can program. It's Bluetooth connectivity. That's what that dongle that you guys saw. And it also has a scroll wheel, which it basically, I can program it however I want to in each program that I utilize. So I've got this little remote here that I've got on the left-hand side whenever I do my sketching and my illustration work, and I don't really need a keyboard. If I need to type anything in, I'll use the virtual keyboard that's on the screen that Microsoft Windows 10 provides. What I've realized just by working on this particular device, as opposed to the Surface Pro 3, this device is obviously bigger. The 12-inch screen of the Surface Pro 3 is great, and I'm not going to ever put it down. But this screen is bigger. In terms of speed, is it faster? I haven't really noticed any speed difference. I know the configurations of the Surface Book. Certain machines have interesting. Certain machines have dedicated GPUs, and I was under the interpretation whenever I first purchased this machine that it had a dedicated GPU, and I purchased it. One of the reasons why I bought it is because of that. Getting into it, I realized I got the 128 configuration model, and it doesn't have a dedicated GPU. Am I okay with that? Yes. Basically, you can think about this machine as being a Surface Pro 4 with its i5 processor, and it's very similar, if not the same, in terms of internals. The reason why I don't really care that I don't have the GPU in this model is because I do have my ZBook, and it has a dedicated GPU, 2 gigabytes of video RAM, and it's a monster. I use this machine primarily for sketching and illustration work, and I'm not going to sit down and do a bunch of video editing. Have I tried? Yeah. I've tried doing a little bit of video editing, and it's fine. It doesn't break any records or anything. And it feels really good whenever I use it. What does that mean exactly? Illustrators and artists and digital people know that whenever you use a device, you want it to not inhibit you from creativity. This device is just one of those devices that doesn't inhibit me from creativity. I can sit down, I open it up, or I touch the keyboard, or I touch the screen, or I take the pen and I scroll it across the screen and it activates, of course, whenever it's sleeping, and I can just go right into it. Is it as seamless as an iPad Pro? No, because you're using a full PC, and with that caveat comes a little bit more baggage. The battery life is just as good. I get about 8-9 hours of battery time, on the Surface Book. But as far as battery life on the iPad Pro, I had a little bit of a problem because unbeknownst to me, one of my children had activated the tethering feature. So my iPad Pro was draining at a rapid rate, and I couldn't figure out why. As soon as I found that out, boom, everything is solved. I get over 11, 12 hours of battery life on the iPad Pro, which is great. What makes this a viable device for illustrators and artists? That's something that I really ask myself every single time I go shopping for a device. Is this going to, first of all,
as artists and illustrators know, you're always looking for that unicorn, that one device that's going to solve everything. Everything in the world will be solved by this device. I'll be able to pick it up. I'll go to the coffee house and I'll work for 12 to 15 hours and I'll make $1 million from it. Wouldn't that be nice? I am always looking for that one device. You know, I thought I purchased it whenever I got my Cintiq Companion. That was a disaster because of the fit and finish and the quality of the piece. Basically, the power cord fell apart. I had issues with the processor, with the drivers. Eventually, I solved it all, and I gave that device away to a really good friend of mine. And he's had no problems with it at all, and he loves it. The Surface Pro 3 has been great, but the battery life stinks. And at first, whenever I first got it, it had overheating issues because that's the first time they put in an i7 processor inside of a tablet. So it was throttled, and it was actually slower than the i5 processor. And you look at those things, and you're thinking, gosh, you spend all that money. But what I'm trying to come at from a different angle is the fact that I got these devices secondhand. Well, what does that mean? It means like they were not purchased new, not purchased directly from Microsoft. They were from a clearance warehouse. These companies buy, you know, lot devices from medical fields because the medical field profession will purchase PCs every single year, and the Surfaces are great because they, you know, have the Windows infrastructure and ecosystem, and that's what a lot of the places utilize. So you'll get these machines, and they've got maybe, you know, 40 or 50 40 or 50 recharge cycles, and they'll be a year old, and the drives will be completely wiped clean, and you'll get them at a discount, sometimes a third of what they cost brand new, and they're only a year old. And that's what I did with my Surface Pro 3. And that's what I did with this particular device. I got this device, and the if you guys know anything about the Surface Book, you know that the actual screen becomes a tablet. You'll detach it, and it's got a battery on the inside of the screen feature, and it becomes just a tablet that you can carry around. And then this base also has a battery in it, and some of them have drive space and also dedicated GPUs. The keyboard is great. It feels good, but I don't utilize the keyboard because, as I showed, I use the XP Pen for my quick keys. It is running the current iteration of Windows. Currently, I have Sketchbook Pro, I have OBS Studio, I have my Dropbox account, and also I have Painter, the most current version of Painter on this machine. The screen is absolutely wonderful. It's zippy, it's great. It's got the pen technology, and you guys see that I've got this nice case on here because I have a bad habit of allowing my children to utilize my devices for their gaming, so I always have a really nice case to protect the screen and all of the other features that this particular device has. Okay, I'm going to try and detach the keyboard to let you guys see. Right now, it's in its forward facing, so this would be very akin to a laptop. You would sit down, you would open your device up, you have Windows Hello, there's my beautiful children. Okay, it's got Windows Hello, so it's really quick whenever you sign in. But as far as the detachment feature, there's two ways of doing it. There is this little button right here that you can push, or if you want to do it on the screen, you can do it right here, which it just detached. So then it detaches. And you can basically go around and use this as a 13.9-inch tablet. This is bigger than an iPad Pro, and it's got all the features of a full PC. I can run full apps on it. Applications, I can install fonts, and it just basically has the same structure and ecosystem as a Windows PC. So why would you detach something like this? Now, obviously, for those of you who utilize your computers as editing devices and you don't draw on it, that configuration is going to be what you're going to want. You're going to want to have it in a laptop configuration. However, the configuration that I utilize it in is going to be in the drawing tablet. Now, I don't disconnect it just for the sake of carrying around a lighter device. I'll sit on the couch and I'll start drawing. And the way that you can do this is you detach it like I showed you, and then you switch it around and you reattach it and you fold it back. And this is the configuration that I have it in. So it's protected. It's got access to this battery on the back, and if it did have a GPU, it would have access to that GPU. Now, unfortunately, the
GPU, if you have it in the performance base, because that's what this is right here, the base, if you have it in the performance base configuration, the only way you have access to the GPU is if it's connected. And that is something that I really kind of evaluated whenever I purchased my ZBook.
Because if any of you guys know, the ZBook has the GPU inside of the area that has the tablet. The keyboard is detachable, and then you still have all of the access to your power, your RAM, your battery, all of that other stuff inside of the tablet base. So you can basically just have the tablet base on the ZBook, and then you don't need the keyboard. However, what's really great about the keyboard, and this is another reason why I got the HP ZBook, is it is Bluetooth connectable. That is not true on the Surface Book. You detach that screen, you don't have access to your GPU, you don't have access to the additional battery, you don't have access to your keyboard. You basically have a tablet similar to what you would have in the iPad. And those were the three things that really did not allow me to move into the Surface Book 2 territory whenever I bought my ZBook. However, after evaluating everything, I really still wanted a Surface Book, so I ended up getting this particular device. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys sort of a rudimentary drawing that I'm going to do in Sketchbook Pro to kind of show you the sensitivity. Now, those of you who have used N-Trig technology know what I'm going to be talking about whenever I sit down and I draw something. The N-Trig technology is different. How is it different? Well, you know, in the world of digital art and styluses, we always talk about parallax. Parallax is that distance between your stylus and the actual cursor. There's microns and sometimes millimeters of distance between your cursor and your pen tip. On the iPad Pro, they've made the screen so thin and they've made the technology so good in that Apple Pencil that there's pretty much no parallax. There's no definitive lag at all. There is a little bit of that on the Surface Book, and the same thing on the Surface Pro, because you're going to have the distance between, you know, your pen tip and, you know, this particular stylus and the cursor. Is it discernible to where it's terrible? No. On the Wacom Cintiq tablets, there's quite a bit of distance and parallax. You're going to get lag. You're going to get some program stifling and some throttling whenever it comes to what what program you're using, what video card you have, what is your configuration. A physical not a video card, a physical drive or a flash drive, and your drivers and all the installation of all these variables that I think as illustrators and artists we take for granted. But it will behoove you to understand the technology. There are a lot of styluses out there. There's a lot of options. Wacom's kind of the quote-unquote innovator that really pushed forward and pushed the technology. Microsoft allocated N-Trig a while back because I don't know what they were thinking, to be honest with you. They were using Wacom technology, and they kind of wanted to have their own deal. Now, don't get me wrong. N-Trig technology is good. It feels different. They've put a little rubber nib, a rubber tip, similar to what I think Wacom... I don't think Wacom ever used rubber tips. They always use plastic, hard plastic. They have different coatings on their screens. And even though that technology is really good, it doesn't have the same feel as the N-Trig technology. This pen does have replaceable nibs. If you purchase the pen that has that feature, whenever you get it, it comes with different hardnesses of pen nibs. Some of them have H, and they equate it to pencils. Those of you who draw the H, the 2H, 3H, the B, the 6B, and they've basically designed the nibs to be able to be very similar to the pencil feels. Does it feel the same? No. But it does have a different feel to it, a drawing feel that really is good for illustrators and artists. One of the things that I noticed about the iPad stylus right here, this is the brand new one, it is a smart stylus. What does that mean? It means it knows where my hand is on the stylus. It knows the tilt, and it knows it knows how I'm holding the stylus, which is really cool. So that was kind of a game changer for the iPad Pro for me. The only thing that I would like to see if they actually sell are different hardness tips. I don't see why nobody has created anything like that. Maybe I want a little bit of a softer tip that has a little bit more grip, that kind of give me a little bit more drag. I do know that they sell paper-like and different coverings for, let me put that back, for the screens on the iPads, and I've had paper-like on my iPad Pro 10.5, and I've had a paper-like on my Surface Pro 3. What I don't like about those is whenever you put them on the screen, even though it gets rid of the glare, it pushes back the pixel, for me at least, resolution and sharpness of what I'm looking at. And that really sucks. I have a 4K screen on my ZBook, and you would think that that 4K screen would slap me in the face every single time I sat down. In terms of brightness, it does, but not sharpness, because they have a non-glare screen coating on the screen that actually pushes back the sharpness of the images that are on the screen. So going back to the Surface Book, we're going to do a little bit of drawing, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about whenever I talk about a different feel to how the Surface Book feels like whenever you draw. Okay, so today, I do apologize for the microphone. I purchased a microphone, and I've tried to plug it into this camera that I'm using multiple times, and it just doesn't like that microphone, so I'm going to have to figure something else out. But today I'm working on Sketchbook Pro. For those of you who've used this program before, you know that it's very intuitive. It's great for using, for sketching and doing really simple artwork. So today, I'm not going to go into a tutorial on how to use this program. It is great. It is free. So go to Autodesk Sketchbook. Look it up. It's really good. So what is it like to draw on the Sketchbook? On the Surface Book. So what I like about the Surface Book is the fact that it doesn't really have a lot of lag. So you guys are watching me do this live. Not live. But what I'm going to do is, right now I've got it propped up. I typically will use this device right here, and I'll have my hand off to the side. Since this case is a little bit heavier, it tends to bind a little bit of not bind, but it's weighted. So if I leave it like this, the case is going to push down the hinge because it's a little bit heavier. So I'm going to hold it with my left hand, and hopefully it's not an issue. Now, I've had a couple people ask me, hey, is the palm rejection any good on the Surface Book? And I'm going to tell you, I've had quite a few false positives on this device, and it is irritating, to say the least. Is it a game changer? No. Does it irritate me? Yes. Like, I'll be sitting here and I'll put my hand down. Actually, it's working pretty good today. And then I'll get, a false positive that basically I'll get a mark on the screen, and that really sucks. But that being said, it is pretty good in terms of palm rejection. There is a setting. If you go over here to your settings and you go into system, you go into devices, you go down to pen and ink. It says ignore my touch. You want to have that on. And it works most of the time. If you're, like a really fast drawer or, artist like I am whenever I draw, sometimes I think, computationally speaking, it even happens on my Super ZBook, it'll have issues. Now, Windows Ink sucks. It interferes so much with the drawing technology. Now, obviously, since this doesn't use Wacom technology, you know, I'm not going to have any issues with Windows Ink. But golly, on my, here, let me draw this really quick. On my ZBook, I've turned Windows Ink off, and some programs use Windows Ink, and then it screws up with Photoshop because I run Photoshop on that machine. So there is a workaround until they fix it, but even the workaround really doesn't work that well. So what's really great about the ZBook is you can turn off. Let me see if I can stick something back here without interfering with things. Oh, that works pretty good. So now I can basically have my quick keys right here, okay? So I can zoom in and out. See, there's no lag at all, and it works really good with what I'm doing. So go here. I'm just doing a really simple face to let you guys see how the machine reacts. And what's really good is I can increase my brush, like right here, and there's no lag, you know. I mean, that's a big brush, you know, in this program. And it's got great pressure sensitivity. Okay, it's got a little wiggle, but a lot of that is because the device itself is so sensitive. It's going to pick up just, I mean, it literally, even if you don't have, you know, the shakes, or if you don't have anything like that, just the normal, the way that you draw or you have your hand placed on the device, it's going to pick up the wiggles. It's going to pick up the wiggles. Yeah, so this, I mean, the way that it's reacting right now is kind of the exact way that I would like it to react to the video. Occasionally, just because of the Windows architecture, the Windows ecosystem, and the way that Windows reacts to certain programs, occasionally I'll get a mess up, and I'll have to restart the entire machine. But that's Windows. That's not the machine itself. You know, you have to understand you're dealing with a system that has so many variables, and in Windows, you know, they have to kind of accommodate. It's like a shell, you know, shell programs. Windows is a great, not a great anything. Windows is a shell program, and then you have all these other companies that kind of, it's very similar to Android, I think, where, you know, you've got their, like Hewlett Packard, my ZBook has a, it's basically sitting in the Windows shell. I have updates to my Hewlett Packard device, and then I have updates to my Windows system. So that's like, you turn on the machine and you got a crap load of updates all the time, you know. That's one of the things that you have to understand whenever it comes to the PC world. You're going to have updates. So as you see, there is absolutely no lag, and I'm going, and if you look right here, let me zoom in really quick. We'll go right to here. Let you guys see this. If you can see the cursor. It's getting blurry. Sorry about that. But there is absolutely no lag at all. There's no parallax, there's no lag. It's a powered pen, so I'm not having to deal with recharging it. It lasts basically a year. You know, I think that Apple, they're a little short-sighted when it comes to stuff like that. It's like, I don't mind putting a battery in a pen if it lasts a year. I mean, what pissed me off about my new iPad Pro is whenever I first got it, I had issues with the pen running down the entire machine. And that sucks. So I found the workaround, which is basically to turn it on airplane mode. You turn it on airplane mode and it solves all your charging, you know, all your battery life issues. I didn't have any issues anymore after I started putting it on airplane mode. This pen and this machine, this pen lasts a year. And, you know, the batteries are like a couple bucks. Even if they were $25 after a year, it'd still be worth it. But I don't have any issues with this pen at all. It always pairs. I never have any issues with the Apple product. Sometimes I have to repair the pin. I have to plug it back in, you know, and that is kind of a hassle and an irritation, which I'll live with that. I like the iPad, but whenever you draw on this device, it's got a resistance right here. If you can see that, there's a little rubber ball right at the end, and with the way this particular screen is made, whenever I draw on it, there's a resistance to it, right? And the pressure sensitivity is absolutely amazing. I can't even I can't even describe how much I love the pressure curve on this device. Now you can go in, if you want to adjust your pressure curve, you come down here to the Surface app that you download from the Windows Store, and you can adjust your pressure curve over here. And if you want to go to advanced, you can basically, I have kind of a straight pressure curve, right? And it measures. If I go to heavy, typically I'll have it right around here, and I can adjust it right here. I had it as a neutral, and then you have right here, you can kind of see where you're at. And you can adjust the eraser as well. Okay? So right now I've got it around 5. I like it around 5. Okay? See? And it's so nice, you guys. It's like I said, it's hard to describe exactly. Exactly how it feels, but it feels wonderful. I love Sketchbook Pro, you guys. It's just so nice to sit down and be able to draw and not have to, have so many different things I got to do. Now I draw a lot on my Cintiq for professional work, but what you guys are seeing today is what I do pretty much. I'll sit down in the morning, I'll start drawing, and depending on how far I get, depending on what device I'm on, so we'll do a little wrap up here, put a little tone in. I'll do a wrap up. I didn't want this video to be 45 minutes long, but I did want you guys to see what I was unable to see whenever I was deciding on whether or not I was going to buy this product. Now, what makes this product different than, say, a Lenovo? Hardware is hardware. Don't get me wrong. A lot of these processors are from the same company, and a lot of the build quality is the same. So it's very confusing of exactly what you should buy whenever you go looking for a device, especially if you guys are looking in the used market. I know HP, their fit and finish is hit or miss depending on what product you buy. My ZBook fit and finish is absolutely incredible, but I went to Walmart and Best Buy and some of those other places, and I saw some of the HP products and they sucked. They looked like they were going to fall apart. Same thing with Lenovo. I picked up a Lenovo laptop and it was horrid. And you're thinking, how is this going to last? But this fit and finish is bar none one of the best fit and finishes I've ever seen on a PC product. I like Microsoft products because they really know how to build something very similar to Apple. Their fit and finish is insane good. I like the fact that Microsoft, they put updates out all the time. They have they have a great system to get updates to you. So that's really good. So I can give her some eyelashes. Which reminds me of a teacher I had in 3rd grade. Her name was Miss Guitro. Miss Guitro. And dude, I think she had to have been an alien because she was so freaking mean. Oh my gosh. I'm a teacher. I teach middle school students, and I understand why she was the way she is. Because you get to that point where you're just like, oh my gosh, why don't you just do what I tell you to do? But, my wife made a very interesting statement one time, because she's a teacher as well. And she said, you need to find the path to reach your students some way, even though you might get frustrated, you need to find that path. So that's what I endeavor to do. But Miss Guitro, she didn't have any paths, man. She was all, this is what she looked like all the time. Anyway, so pressure curve, awesome. Depending on the program that you use, this has 8 gigs of RAM. I know they make them all the way up to 16 for the Surface Book. One of the reasons why I got my ZBook is because it supported up to 32 gigs of RAM, and I did get that configuration with the i7. This is the i5 with 8 gigs of RAM. You get that extra RAM because it detaxes the processor, so you can do certain things. This one obviously doesn't have the dedicated GPU, but I don't really notice it, to be honest with you, because I'm not doing, massive amounts of computational programs and stuff like that. Anyway, so this is the little quick sketch I did for you guys. Just using the stock brush. I do have a ton of brushes for this program that I use in my professional work, but we're not going to use any of those. You can get this program off of the website. It's just wonderful. It's got great textures. Yeah. So, anyway, that's kind of my take on the Surface Book. You see that it's got a great interface. It's got great build quality. And the way that it uses the program is just absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to show you guys this morning. One of the reasons why I really enjoy the Surface products is the fact that it's a full PC. Whenever I first started my career, I was a Mac-only guy, and I was very staunch against personal computer PCs in general and Windows in general. And the reason why is because it was so convoluted and bloated, and as a creative, it really inhibited me from being who I needed to be. The Mac ecosystem, in my opinion, and just from my experience, caters towards a very specific type of workflow. PCs also cater to a very broad type of workflow. My wife has been on a PC, she's been on a Mac, and she sees the benefits to both, and so did I. So whenever I started looking for a device that I could sketch on and draw on, at that particular point in time, the Mac Pro did not exist. The Apple iPad did, and I purchased an Apple iPad, and I had purchased iPads previous to that, and it was basically a big phone. And as the system has evolved, it's become a viable device to be able to sketch and draw on and create on. And as unfortunately the way that Apple works, they do things in increments. And with Microsoft, they started creating this incredible device that had pressure sensitive stylus. It had 256, 512 gigabytes of storage. It was a full PC. You could run full apps on it. It was touch. So whenever I started looking at the iPad Pro back, whenever it came out, 2015, it was not really a viable device because, first of all, it was $1,000 and it was so expensive. Whenever I started drawing on it, it was so different than what I had actually become accustomed to on the Surface products. So just by means of working and doing stuff on the Surface line, it has really become one of my favorite devices to draw on, and the Surface Book is no different. It's a bigger surface area that I can draw on. The Surface Book is 13.9. The Surface Pro 3 is 12 inches. And And again, you know, with the SD card slot on the Surface Pro 3, I can expand, and with the options on the Surface Book, you know, I can expand as well. It's got a little adapter you can put into the SD card slot. You know, in terms of price, you can find a very, very nice Surface Book and Pro 3 used, refurbished for around $500. And that is obviously more expensive than the current iPad that supports the Apple Pencil, because I think those are $3 1/4, $329, something like that. And you're going to get a smaller device with that. But with this particular device, you're going to get a full computer. I can't express how important that is. Getting a full computer as opposed to an Apple product that confines you in this ecosystem to like a phone interface. And even though, don't get me wrong, the Apple iPad is great in some respect, but whenever it comes to just being able to work as a professional, it's hard to beat the Surface Pro. Surface Pro, Surface Book, and that whole line. I think the current iteration of the Surface Book 2 with the i7 8th generation, I think it's around $3,000, and that's a lot of money, but it is an investment. Now that's brand new. You could probably pick one up for, you know, just under $2,000, and again, that's a lot of money to spend. But if you're willing to concede and not having the most updated processors and most updated machine, you're still going to get a great build quality in the Surface Book. You're still going to get a great screen. You're still going to get something that has more options than the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro is a great device. I would never put down on it in terms of what it can do for certain individuals. For me, it is growing. It is growing in terms of what I do on it and what I can do on it. And it will probably eventually be a go-to machine, possibly even replacing the Surface line. But right now, the Surface line is great. And I highly recommend the Surface Pro 3, Pro 4, Pro 5, 6, and going on. And I'm sure that they're going to develop some type of pen technology that will even surpass Wacom. They're really doing some incredible things over at Microsoft. And if you've kind of shunned them in the past, I would encourage you to open your mind and open your pocketbook and open your judgment a little bit more to see that they're really trying a lot of new stuff. You know, Apple's had a couple hits here and there, and I'm still an Apple fanboy. I have an Apple phone, and I utilize their products, and my main machine is an Apple product just because of the iOS and the OS system is really catered to creativity. But in terms of what they're doing new over at Microsoft, I recommend it. The pen technology is great, and I'm sure it'll get better and better as the drivers really change and get updated. The the Windows Ink system, though, it's hard for me to like the Windows Ink system, because even though it's tied right in with the Intrig technology, it's very obtrusive in some programs, and it's hard for some programs, I think, like Photoshop. Photoshop has, because it's like you have the touch technology, you have the pen technology, you have the hand rejection technology, and they're fighting each other all the time. And that even happens on my iPad. You know, my palm rejection in Procreate, sometimes, you know, I get a lot of false positives on that too. But anyway, that's kind of today. I hope you guys like the video. It's a little bit longer, but it is important that I showed you this particular facet of you know, this review, because even though you might not make a ton of money, even though you might not, you know, be making, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to go out and buy a brand new machine, there are options out there for you. And I think that if you investigate and find the right deal, you could get an incredible device that will supply you with years of reliability. I mean, my Surface Pro 3 was, I think, late 2014, and it's still going strong. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe, and definitely share the videos. We're getting some more videos, obviously, up to you every week. And as the channel evolves and changes, we'll be doing a lot more. So thank you guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye.